Hello everybody, today we'll be using GeometryEffect to animate our views. The arrow that we were presenting in the previous lesson, we will now add animation so that it's sliding back and forth. We will also make it so that it is pulsating with a scale effect, and we will also mix the both animations. The first animation that we will create is the pulsating animation. Our animations will be geometry effects that we will apply to views through view modifiers. To conform to geometry effect, we need one function. The effect value in here is where we apply transformations to the view. Now there's an interesting hack that I read online where you assign a variable, you create a variable %, and then you use animatable data. This is a variable that geometry effect has. And in its getter and setter, you use %. Then in the initializer, depending on if the animation is on or off, you set the value of % to 1 or 0. This change is very important because now that we are keeping track of the animatable data, this is the value that SwiftUI uses to turn on off the animation. So we can actually change things midway through the animation. This is somewhat similar to UI view animate with keyframes. Here we just check the % to see in which of the stages we are on the animation, and we are the ones deciding the stages. For example, for this one, we're going to divide the animation into 4 stages, and the stages will be split equally. How can we guarantee this? Well, simple with the percentage. We check the percentage for under 25%, 50, 75, and 100%. Then the actual animation, in this case, since we're pulsating, we're just changing the scale of the view. So we init the transform with the scale X and Y, and depending on the percentage, we increase it or decrease it. So for example, here in the first stage, we're increasing the scale to 1.25. Then on the second stage, we are reducing the scale back to 1. On the third stage, we are reducing it to 0.75, and on the last stage, we're getting it back up to 1. Our pulsating animation is now ready. Let's go to the focus area modifier where we are placing the arrow and add our new animation. So the type of the animation that we will have will be linear. It will will last for 2 seconds, and it will repeat forever. The value that we use to toggle the animation is the same that we're using to show the arrow, and our pulsating animation we added with dot modifier. And let's test and see if we can see our animation. So let's go here, the arrow is there, let's set it to the top right, and there we have our animation. Right now the pulsating animation looks a little bit weird, and that's because when we add the repeat forever, it also adds the auto reverse. So it animates and then reverse the animation. Let's change that to false, since we're already handling this loop inside of our pulsating animation. And now the pulsating animation looks much better. Now I am doing something wrong here, since now I'm always showing the arrow. We should hide it, and you will see that by hiding the arrow, the animation will no longer happen. But let's first hide it. Okay, so now the view is hidden. Now let's stop here, and the arrow isn't animated. So what's happening here? How can we fix this? Why isn't the view animating? This happens because we're showing the view and at the same time we are toggling the animation. And remember, the animation happens when we toggle the flag, and that's what changes the percent from 0 to 1 or from 1 to 0, and that's what runs the effect value. So what we're going to do is revert back to our previous implementation where we were showing the arrow with the if and add a new published variable to our view model, is animating. This one we will toggle off when we stop showing the arrow, and we toggle on when we show the arrow after a certain time. So here we will, after showing the arrow, we wait 0.1 second and then we toggle on the animation. Let's see what happens now with this implementation. Go to our demo, show it, and now we have the animation as we wanted it. The arrow animates when the arrow appears. Next, a little change here. I don't like displaying that black arrow, so let's change the color to blue, and let's also add a border. Since you cannot fill and stroke a shape at the same time, we will fill the arrow shape and then add as an overlay the same arrow, so an arrow created with the same direction, and instead of filling it, we stroke it with black. Okay, on to the next animation, the back and forth animation. This is just the arrow sliding to the right, left, right, left. Are going to control this movement with the translation. So for this, we will create another geometry effect and we will apply the same trick where we use the animatable data to capture the percent of the ongoing animation. Just like we did with the pulsating animation, we will split the animation evenly into 4 segments using the percent, but instead of using the scale of the CG affine transform, we'll use the translation. Okay, let's see how our animation looks. Oh, oh wow. Okay, let's see where I made a mistake. Oh yes, we are using the first stage of the animation is with translation, then with the scale. Let's fix this and try again. Tap again. Now that looks much better. The arrow is going a lot into the view, so maybe we don't need to translate the entire width. Luckily, we can just change it with this variable. So let's do it 1/4 and see how it looks. Now this animation looks better. Now that we have our two animations, what happens if I want to apply both of them? Let's apply first the back and forth animation and then the pulsating one and see what happens. Let's go to demo, top right, and we are kind of having an animation. The thing is that we're translating and scaling, so the translation, since it uses the size, doesn't look that well. Maybe what we can do is sequence the animations. Maybe we can just do one and then the other. Now for ease of use, we're going to move the logic of using the percent to decide on the transform to a separate function. We will do the same for the back and forth animation. And now let's create our third animation, back and forth and pulsating animation. So we can get our two transforms from the convenience method that we just created from those classes. And we could create a projection transform and concatenate the two CG-affine transforms, but that will just display the same that we did when we were adding the two view modifiers. Instead, what we could do is, again, sequence them. And for this, we can use the percent. So the first part of the animation, we'll be doing one of the animations, and then for the other part of the percent, we do the other ones. Let's make it so that we do the back and forth animation in the first half, and then we do the pulsating one. Then it's just a matter of returning the projection transform with whatever transform we were creating. Let's see how this looks. Much better. It is a little bit fast since now we are running the animations on half of the time we were adding them. But yeah, we have our desired animation. That will be it for our animations. Let's now improve our implementations so that we can change the animation depending on the arrow. Our focus area modifier will have a variable. Actually, the view model will have a variable, which would be the arrow animation. The animation will be changed by the focus modifier in the change value. Now, thanks to this change, we can decide what animation we want for the different focus that we have in the demo view. The last thing remaining is in our focus area view. Depending on which is the selected arrow animation, we will add the modifier with the corresponding animation. Let's see how this looks. So we're here, we have the back and forth. Here we have the back and forth and pulsating. And here on the bottom left, we have just the pulsating. Last minute fix, you may have noticed that some of the arrows were not animating on that last run, and that's because with the animating we need to toggle it, since again the geometry effect happens when we change the value of the animating flag. It doesn't matter if it is true or false, it just has to change to take effect. And that was all. I have to confess, I love doing animations in SwiftUI. GeometryEffect is one of my favorite tools to use. It is incredibly flexible and works so well with the animation modifier in SwiftUI. Next time we will do even cooler animations. Hope you liked it. Bye.